Hi, my name is Sarah Trumbull. I am the founder and CEO of the Job Applicant Perspective, the first anonymous user reviews for job ads across the US. So I am pushing a paradigm shift that's pretty big yet. And as a result, I do blogs and I do TikToks and I'm a bootstrap founder. Okay. I work with what I got. And I am trying to use that media to push out in another way. I improve in a recursive fashion. This is a slight improvement from some of my last stuff and a slight improvement from my last stuff. And that's where I'm at. So in this blog, I'm going to read from it. I'm going to talk about game theory in the online labor market to show that it's mathematically impossible for this online labor market to work as it currently operates. So yeah. If you are into mathematics, academics, or just, systems theory, it might be fun. So just buckle up. It could be interesting. Introduction. A system that should work, but doesn't. We've already looked at the labor market through multiple lenses. The human experience, job seekers ghosted hundreds of times, small business owners drowning in resumes, recruiters burning out in broken funnels. The labor market theory, a dive bar singer for economics, spins a tale of market gravity and what causes online markets to function like good bridges between two actors, and what causes them to collapse, as me, I made that one, previous blog post. Is sociological and theological, discussing the obedience economy and emotional ripples of obedience, as well as Bonhoeffer's perspective, where institutions lose coherence when they no longer can see multiple frames at once. I like perspectives. Get it? Perspectives? Now we flip again to mathematics. Because hiring isn't just human, it's a designed mathematical system. Every major hiring platform, LinkedIn, Indeed, ATS vendors, relies on disciplines that sit directly on top game theory. Economics, model, supply, demand, wages, and signals. Computer science builds the algorithms deciding who gets seen and who disappears. Psychology maps how humans choose under uncertainty. All of these fields rest on the same foundations. When multiple people make decisions that affect each other, the math changes. That's game theory, the study of strategic interaction. But here's the catch. Online hiring ignores almost everything game theory predicts about human behavior. Platforms claim to be efficient marketplaces, but they've stripped away the single most important input, how players perceive the game that they're playing. And that's where everything breaks. Setting the context. Why now? This is not an academic exercise. The cracks are visible everywhere. Employers complain of talent shortages while millions of qualified resumes get trapped in ATS black boxes. Job seekers apply to 500 plus roles, spending hundreds of hours and hear nothing back. Recruiters burn out chasing ghost candidates for ghost jobs. Policymakers cling to skills gaps narratives while platforms quietly monetize churn. We've been told these are isolated frustrations. They aren't. They're structural failures, predictable outcomes of mismatched incentives, opaque systems, and broken signals. That's why the lens of game theory matters here. Because when almost every working adult depends on this market for food, shelter, and healthcare, it isn't enough to describe the harm. We need to map why the system behaves this way. Who this is for. This is not a math lecture. This is for anyone stuck inside the broken game. Job seekers apply 1,000 times, ghosted 950 times, wondering if it's them or the system. Small business owners drowning in resumes while paying platforms to help. For recruiters managing burnout on both sides of the table, policymakers relying on data that hides as much as it reveals, academics and economists trying to reconcile theory with contradictions in the field, platform designers and investors betting billions on systems where the math doesn't hold. If you build, study, or depend on this market, you have an obligation to ask, does this system actually work? I'm not a mathematician. I'm checking the blueprints. As before, I like to set the stage with a clear understanding of my strengths and limitations as a narrator. It matters because while I speak of an industry that is drowning in inauthentic performances and argue for transparency, I need to model it. While I actually do have an undergraduate degree in physics and astrophysics, game theory is still outside my stomping ground mathematically. It is. I was never that great at it anyways. And in any case, there's no need to do mathematical proofs when grounding the structure makes the answer obvious without that. I am a dive bar singer of economics in so much as I tend to view economics as an interesting blend of psychology and math mapped on top of systems. Sort of like, it's like translating. You translate systems through psychology and math. But my training in the field doesn't come with the title of PhD when it comes to economics or psychology. It comes with reading the books and articles that such minds wrote. None of this is to put myself down. I take pride in the skill sets I have. I wouldn't be able to speak intelligently with top academics in labor market economics, sociology, and systems theory across the country if I wasn't just that good at what I do. And in being in peace with who I am, I'm also at peace with who I'm not professionally. The issue isn't that you can't find incredible voices both at an opera house and a corner pub. It's that you have to listen to tell for sure. But all of my work, like all work anywhere, should be viewed not as scripture, but as invitation. I'm here to test structural coherence. Think of it like checking a bridge blueprint. I don't have to calculate every load-bearing stress, but if the foundation is upside down, you don't need to be an engineer to see if it's going to collapse. This is about spotting the flaw that makes the whole structure unstable. So, game theory in 90 seconds. Game theory studies how strategy changes when choices affect your outcomes and yours affect mine. Labor markets are game theoretic by design. Job seekers, employers, platform recruiters, policymakers, every move changes everyone else's incentives. And here's the twist. Game theory isn't just math, it's behavioral math. It models not just the actions, but the beliefs. What do I think you'll do if I apply? What do you think I'll do if you send me an offer? How do algorithms shape those beliefs behind the curtains? Core assumptions. Players are strategic. They adapt based on what they think others will do. Signals matter. Actions are interpretable because they carry meaning. This is where online hiring breaks the model. By erasing signals and ignoring player perception, they've built simulations of markets that don't exist, and then designed real human lives and their ability to eat around them. Why game theory matters to the labor market. Game theory sits beneath every other discipline these platforms claim to optimize. Economics assumes workers and employers react strategically to each other. Assumes job postings reflect real supply and demand. Assumes markets converge towards equilibrium. Platforms quietly break these assumptions. Noise floods the system. Ghost jobs, spam posting, key signals are hidden. Salaries, status, and timelines. Platforms optimize for volume, not stability. Computer science. Matching engines, ATS filters, and ranking models all assume clean inputs. The data is polluted. Recommendation algorithms assume stable rules. The rules change constantly. Prediction models assume clear incentives. Platforms deliberately obscure them. Behavioral psychology. Game theory assumes players decide based on beliefs. Today, job seekers optimize for algorithms, not skills. Trust breaks, exhaustion sets in, and defensive strategies replace strategic ones. When player behavior diverges from model predictions, the math collapses. So I'm going to go through a few of these. First one, signaling games are broken. In game theory, labor markets are signaling games. Resumes signal skills, job ads signal opportunities, offers signal real demand, but the signals have collapsed. Ghost jobs distort perceived supply and demand. Keyword-stuffed resumes bury real capability. Engagement-driven platforms reward noise over clarity. Game theory assumes players update strategies based on signals, but when resumes, postings, and applications all lie, there's nothing to update on. Broken signals is broken games is broken markets. Next, weaponized information asymmetry. In game theory, hidden information destabilizes strategy. Players cannot optimize moves when they don't know what's real. Platforms intentionally amplify the instability. High job statuses, ghost jobs drive more clicks. Bury salaries and employer quality. Opacity feeds turn. Deploy black box ranking algorithms. Rules shift faster than players can adapt. This isn't a bug, it's the business model. Opacity drives volume. Volume drives monetization. Economists call this non-convergent system, one where rational players make irrational markets. The Nash equilibrium that doesn't exist. In game theory, a Nash equilibrium is balance. Everyone settles on strategies where no one can improve by unilaterally. Online hiring never reaches equilibrium structurally, ever. Job seekers optimize for visibility. Employers optimize for filtering. Platforms optimize for churn. Instead of stabilizing, strategies heat up. More resume spam equals more filters equals more resume spam equals more burnout. This isn't equilibrium, it's an arms race. Without shared signals, convergence is mathematically impossible unless we rebuild the missing trust layer. Repeated games and trust collapse. In repeated games, reputation stabilizes behavior. If you ghost me today, I remember next time. But platforms erased memory. No visibility into ghosting rates, no shared quality ratings, no persistent trust signals. This forces everyone to play as if every round is the first, with no consequences for bad behavior. Defensive strategies dominate. Seekers mass apply, employers tighten gates, recruiters flood inboxes. This isn't inefficiency at the margins, it's designed trust collapse. Without memory, every bridge is rebuilt upside down. Put simply, platforms optimize for a game no one is playing. They measure engagement, not resolution. Players have behaved strategically, but the models ignore that strategy. The result isn't a market, it's a churn machine. The missing player perception. This is the deepest break in the game. You cannot model player strategies without modeling player beliefs. And the oldest, most important rule in hiring is don't talk about your hiring process. It makes you unemployable. Thus, with economists and investors and public policy approval, platforms don't model humans as strategic actors. They model them as inventory, impressions, click-throughs, and conversions. This blind spot connects back to Bonhoeffer's. When a system enforces a single dominant narrative, more posting is more opportunity, it collapses its ability to perceive reality. By ignoring how players interpret the game, platforms, public policy specialists, and more built models that no longer describe behavior. And when the models fail, the market destabilizes. The job applicant perspective is rebuilding the missing layer. After all this, one conclusion is unavoidable. It depends on how you measure it. The $1 trillion, $100 billion hiring market isn't just inefficient, it's structurally, mathematically incoherent. This is just one of the many reasons I built the job applicant perspective, a platform designed to restore the missing trust layer the hiring market forgot to build. How TJAP fixes the game? Anonymous job ad reviews, flag ghost jobs, fake postings, and broken funnels. Crowdsourced hiring feedback, share real experiences, restoring memory to a market that forgot. Shared market signals give job seekers, employers, and policymakers the same map of what's real. The differing maps is such a problem. Platforms broke the game by stripping out perspective. TJAP rebuilds the game by putting perspective back in. Then I have a section on check out the research for readers who want to dive deeper. The article builds on years of work at the intersection of platform economics, labor market design, and trust infrastructure. So I have some of my papers on SSRN. It's my blog. I have papers on that. Structural fallacy. I put some variations of these blogs into kind of academic white paper form on SSRN. But I put some other recommended sources talking about Harvard's Hidden Workers Report, research on algorithmic bias, ATS misclassification and ghost jobs, policy papers on labor market, signal design, and reputation systems. In conclusion, it is not just social theory like Bonhoeffer's, economic theory like my online gravity one. It's fun for me. Evidence listed above, or mathematical theory that demonstrates that the online labor market exists. There's also the lived experience of millions of people talking on LinkedIn and Reddit in real life every day. This isn't just commentary, it's a map. And TJAP is where we're starting to rebuild a new one. Basically, reputation built the modern internet. We're going to use it to rebuild online hiring. I mean, let's be real, guys. Like, all online platforms profit from engagement, not solution, but all users profit from solutions, not engagement. There was never a tech that would have protected the platform from not having needless engagement without user reviews. The profit is in the pain when there's only one stakeholder. The profit is in the solution when there's two. You want to build hiring solutions, not hope casinos. Yeah? All right. Thank you very much. Yeah. So that's the game theory. That's the thought.